Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my shop. Today is November 14th and it's my weekly shop update. So, it is freezing here. It has been very cold here the last week. I am definitely not ready for that cold winter weather. It's just, it's kind of been miserable mostly, but I have been very busy. I have a lot of things to share with you today. Been working on a lot of stuff. So I slabbed up that large red oak log that was on my mill last week. I had a visitor all the way from Mississippi with a trailer load of logs. I got a lot of progress done on the sideboard, and I started making some more of my lumber stack levelers. So I think first off, let's just take a look at the sideboard doors, and I'll bring you up to where that's at to where they are like this. So I'm at the point now where I am getting the doors hung on their hinges, getting those all mortised in, but they are all, let's see if I can get them there, here we go. All the doors are fit to the opening right now, and the only thing left there is to set the actual gaps. So I did take the time to trim the doors. Let me see if this one actually fits in here yet. Not really. So they're just trimmed down so that they actually just fit in here geometrically correctly, and then I'll set the gaps once they're all on their hinges. Yeah, this one's not trimmed yet. But just to give you an idea of what this thing is going to look like with those crotch panels in there, there is the final look of the front of the whole case, which is pretty darn exciting. So another small thing I knocked out for the sideboard last week was to make all the knobs for the drawers and for the doors, and they're hiding in this drawer here. I turned all 7 of the kind of shakerish knobs. Pretty quick little thing to knock out. They're just about 7/8 of an inch in diameter, and they got a little cove and dome kind of profile. Pretty quintessential shaker. Those are really quickly turned on the lathe, and I was actually surprised how consistent I was able to get all these things to look, because as I mentioned in the past, I can kind of turn, but what I really am terrible at is consistency and duplication. So as I mentioned, I also spent some time last week out on the sawmill slabbing up that big red oak log, and that turned out to be some really beautiful stuff. I know like red oak doesn't really get all the love like it probably shouldn't, I guess, because it was really overdone. But I think what really happened with red oak is it just got like overused with like these really terrible stains, and I think people just got too far away from the natural look of that red oak. And the stuff I cut doesn't look anything like the red oak you'd buy in the store. It has a lot of interesting color. It's not just like that kind of pinkish red tone. It's a lot more in the gray department, which is just absolutely stunning. So I managed to get that whole thing slabbed up. That went pretty quickly. Didn't have any issues at all. Just smooth sailing. I did cut through, I think, 2 nails in that one. But nails, not, the saw doesn't really notice those at all, and I didn't notice them until I was moving slabs, and I was like 4 or 5 cuts down from when I had cut through those. So small nails are like negligible as far as the saw is concerned. It's just when you start getting into like the really big foreign objects that starts to cause a problem. But your little 16 penny nails, that's nothing. Don't even notice those until afterwards. So I was really kind of rushing to get that slabbed up and off the mill because I knew I was having a visit from a viewer named Phil all the way from Mississippi. He brought up some logs. He was looking for a bit of an adventure and a road trip for him and his son to go on. So they figured they'd come up here and bring me some southern wood that I don't normally get. So Phil brought up a couple of pecan and a piece of live oak for me to saw, And he also brought these really big cookies that we were hoping to get sawn, but we just didn't have time. I got the first pecan log pulled off his trailer. We got it loaded onto the mill, and we started cutting that one up. And this is when the weather started really changing. We had, I think, an inch of snow that evening beforehand, and the temperatures were just absolutely ridiculously cold that day. So we had a late start because this truck wouldn't start. Those southern trucks aren't used to this northern weather, I guess. Then by the time we finally got going, because daylight saving ended, it gets dark here, like starting at 4 o'clock. So we got through most of the first pecan log, and we decided to just call it at about 4 o'clock so we can get the trailer loaded up so he could get all loaded back up and on his way back down to Mississippi. But overall, just a really fun day just to be out there making sawdust, hanging out. I had an absolute blast, and it really wasn't about how much we were going to get sawn that day. It was just about having fun. So here is the piece of crotch live oak that we dumped off the trailer, and there is the second pecan log. And that's a pretty decent sized log. It's got a couple of crotches in it, so it should be pretty interesting. Behind me on the mill is the last few slabs for that first log. Phil took the rest of these slabs home with him. I think he got like 7 slabs off that log. And pecan is actually really nice. I've seen it in pictures. I've never seen it like this. This is like stuff that I don't see it ever because it doesn't grow here. So it's just cool to have a piece of a tree that doesn't grow here. That's it. Back here, this is that red oak log that's all slabbed up here. Nice stack of slabs. All the stuff needs to get stacked still. So the other thing I did last week was I started working on some more of my stack levelers. If you haven't seen those before, I will leave a link to the video I did about making those, or at least making the kind of like prototype version. I bought some steel, cut it all up, and got all the holes drilled and prepped all the bases. So the only thing left to do on those now is to weld in all of the studs for the top pieces to kind of sit on. But that was really the first time I really used the horizontal bandsaw in sort of its fullest capacity. I had the saw running and cutting as I was drilling the holes in the top pieces, which is really cool to just be able to have that kind of efficiency there. I set the saw up to make the cuts, get the saw going, and then go drill some holes while the saw was working on cutting all the base pieces. So I can get all my stacks ready because it's going to be warming up here for at least the next forecast for the week is above freezing. So that'll be great to be able to get my bases down before the ground freezes again. So that's what I've been up to this week. Let's take a look at some viewer projects. First this week is a cookie top side table by Glen. This white oak broken cookie was in his friend's burn pile. The rotten wood was stabilized with multiple pours of regular epoxy and is finished with polyurethane. The cookie is topped off with a piece of tempered glass. Next this week is a live edge waterfall urn by Joshua. After Joshua's aunt's passing, his family asked him to make an urn for her ashes. He routed 2 parallel dados into the walnut slab before cutting the miters so he could inset the maple sides later. The live edges were cleaned up with a rough sanding, a blowtorch, and a wire wheel. And once it was glued up, he used a rasp to contour the live edge portions that didn't match up. Next this week is a crib and end table by Richard. Richard made this crib and small end table for his daughter. The crib is made from locally harvested cherry from the Ozark of Arkansas. The end table is made from locally harvested catalpa. The stool was Joshua's version of Nick Offerman's berry stool from his book Good Clean Fun. Both are finished with water locks and topped with paste wax. Last this week is a harp case by Art. Art's brother picked up a harp. It came with a case, but it was in bad shape. The wood is 1/4-inch mahogany, mostly from scraps. The sides are tongue and groove and are made up of 18 pieces. It's finished with a mahogany stain and 3 coats of varnish. The inside is lined with 1/4-inch foam, and he made a cushion for underneath the neck and as a string protector for the top. So a couple of things before we wrap up here. First off, if you haven't seen it already, over on the Triton Tools YouTube channel, they posted a video that they did of myself and April when I was at her shop back in August. We made a really quick organizer storage wall thing for her glues and paints and finishes and things. Really quick pocket hole project, my first pocket hole project. It was fun. It was also the first thing I did right in the morning, not totally awake yet. There's a reason why I don't film anything in the morning. It's because I'm not a morning person. So I'll leave a link to that if you haven't seen that already. I think that's all I have for this week. thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments about anything I talked about today or anything here in my shop, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, to be happy to answer your questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking.